Last year, about this time, I was a guy from the Pacific Northwest researching bluefin tuna fishing on YouTube. I was doing my best to figure out this fishery as an outsider. I made two trips, one in July and another in October. And in this video, I'm going to recap my 2025 bluefin tuna fishing season, what I learned, what I would do different, and some tips and tricks to master this fishery as an outsider. I can't explain to you the feeling when you first connect with one of these monsters. It actually put me in shock. I didn't really know what happened. It was kind of like getting sucker punched. I was on the reel and it loaded up with so much force. It was like, the best way I could describe it, it was like I hooked up to a small truck. It locked up almost like I'd hit bottom and it took off and it had me pinned to the rail. Almost 8 minutes later, I landed a 130-pound bluefin tuna and my mind was blown. I mean, so that trip started off, I actually first was down visiting someone in the hospital in San Diego in around this time, and I started researching, and they were out killing big ones already early last year. Scheduled a trip for May on the Tomahawk. It canceled for weather, which is something I learned early and late season is there's a lot higher chance of cancellation for weather, whereas like the main season in the summertime, they almost always go. We went in like 10-foot seas later. So it takes a lot for them to cancel. So I came back with a friend in July. We drove down. In that time period, I did a lot of research. I reached out on Facebook groups, San Diego bluefin tuna fishing groups. I initially asked some guys if I could buy them a cup of coffee, if they would answer some questions, because I'm a student and a parent, and I am not made of money. So these trips are a big gamble for me. It's part of the fun to just put it all out there and drive 1,000 miles and put thousands of dollars down overall and see what happens, you know, and I don't regret it one bit. But I'm the type, I'll do as much research as possible. There's a good chance that's what you're doing right here as well. You're probably considering going, or you're hyped up about this coming season, and I don't blame you. So am I. So I was researching. I had a couple awesome dudes, Dave Faniff and Marco Gonzalez, both reached out, mentored me. Marco was great. He actually was like, hey, when you guys get down there, come check in with me at my house. And this dude actually sent us out with 7 setups, custom rods. I had Penn Torque 40, Talicas. We had it all. I asked someone that was so cool, they actually ended up letting us try all this stuff to see what we liked. And I actually was able to get a good idea of what I liked before I bought a bunch of shit. Which, if you're into this sport, especially with tuna, it's like a crack addiction. This is ridiculous. But in my next video, I'm going to go over the setups I have for this coming season. I actually accumulated like what I hope to consider my lifetime setup. So I will link that video either here or at the end of the video here. But so we got on the boat, or actually, excuse me, we were waiting outside in July after driving all the way down from Portland, and we hear about engine trouble, and I'm like, son of a bitch, dude, if this cancels again. So they call an emergency mechanic down there. He gets on there. They putt around the bay, come back. We lost a bunch of time, but we ended up going into like really gnarly seas. I'm surprised nobody got sick. I think it was 10-foot seas, and it was going up and down. And I didn't know at the time. Here's another thing. Moon phase matters. And we picked something approaching the full moon. In fact, by the time we got off the boat, the full moon was there. And that did affect fishing. From my anecdotal evidence, when we started that trip, it was hot. Like that first night was red hot. And as it got more illuminated and we got close to that full moon, it just died. The daytime bite was dead, which is apparently a thing when the full moon is going. I think what it is they feed so much at night, they can see that they maybe don't have the urgency to eat during the daytime. So what was really interesting about that trip, it actually stands out, and it'll probably always stand out. I stayed in contact with a couple of crew members from the Tomahawk, and they remember this trip because it was the trip of the giants. If you look up in my video history, I do have a trip recap from this Tomahawk 2.5 day, and What a blast. We flew the kite during the daytime, and man, some of those takedowns were just amazing. I didn't hit the lottery on the kite bite, neither did my buddy. We'd already caught 2 fish each the first night, so we were doing really well. I think on the whole boat, there were 22 fish at the end of the day for 28 people. We each had 2. A lot of people got cows on that kite bite. There weren't a ton of fish caught. It was really... on paper, it was a shittier trip, but if you consider that we caught like 12 over 200 pounds, dude, they were monsters. My 130 pounder was a little peanut compared to, I mean, mine looked like that compared to a cow, you know what I mean? So there was a bait crisis when we took off. We got really shitty bait. It all died within like 12 hours. Nobody caught a flyline fish. Nobody got a flyline bite even. I was real gung-ho at first about tossing Colt snipers. I tossed it, no luck. I had this really nice tungsten jig that they set me up with at Fisherman's Landing Tackle Shop for a shitload of money. And so I was really eager to try it, and nothing bit it. My buddy was he was like, man, you got to hear about these Giro Lures. And he was fishing a Tomahawk. It was actually one of these right here. Purple Rain Tomahawk. It was a 300 or 350. And this thing got smacked before anything on the boat. He brought his first fish over. Like, he was coming up to me talking like an expert. Like, yo, if you don't catch anything here, I'll hook some for you with this jig and pass it off. We were already making plans. Like, I didn't have any of these jigs. I wasn't getting bit, so I'm panicking. I mean, he got bit like immediately with this. So it was so snotty out that the 300 jigs weren't really cutting it. So they recommended we up it to 350, 400. So I actually switched to a laser bomb. Giro also sells this. You can see how tore up this thing is. Look at this. Look at the bent eye hook on it. It survived multiple. I hooked 4. All on this. Landed 2. One was hooked in the side. A 30 pounder hooked in the side fights about twice as hard as a 130 pounder hooked in the mouth. Insane. I was fighting that thing and I was like, this one's bigger than the last one. I was confident. I mean, it was kicking my ass and it was just a 30 pounder sideways. Got water resistance and you can't guide the head. It's just, that's an experience too. The weird thing was I was told we were going to get bit on the drop, like the flutter, the fall. I couldn't get bit to save my life on that trip on the drop. I was actually burning this as fast as I could. And one thing I did do before that trip, because I was so pumped, is I went to the gym because I didn't know how hard it was going to be. So I was actually doing lifts like face pulls, pull-ups, grip strength building, my back, everything, like legs. I was doing everything to support being able to battle these big fish that I had no idea how hard they were going to tug. And let me tell you, these fucking things tug so hard, it's going to ruin a lot of other fishing if you aren't already doing it. I don't recommend it. If you live somewhere far away and you're catching catfish or you're catching coho salmon in the Pacific Northwest and you think you're going to go do this and then come back to do normal shit here and it's going to be just as fun, it's not. A coho doesn't even get me going anymore, okay? I have to hunt big Chinook to even be remotely interested. Albacore is the only thing around here that gets me going like this. Albacore is a whole nother thing. It's a team sport in and of itself. But so I was packed with irons. I had poppers. We didn't get to throw any of that. I tried the tuna bomb, okay, this Aztec bomb. This is where I learned later that color doesn't matter. That deep, they're not seeing it. There's a thermocline about 240 feet down, I also learned. That's typically right on the layer where they're at. You can reliably count there and count on them being in there on that seam. And they'll tell you exactly where they're going to be. If they tell you they're 350, start dropping that. And when I get to that thermocline, about 240 on my colored braid, which if you're not familiar, there's braid that every 100 or 50 yards, you can change colors so you can keep track of where you're at. I highly, highly recommend you fish your nighttime rail rod with that colored line so you know exactly where you're at. That kind of information and ability makes all the difference. It's really the technology in these ships that's allowing us to chase these down and find them that even makes it possible. So the captain and the deckhands are going to give you golden information. If they tell you to do something, my best advice, just do it. And don't be afraid to ask other guys fishing on these boats. A lot of these folks are locals of San Diego. They fish all the time and they kick ass at it. And if you have any anxiety about bringing it up to someone or asking them, just remember that they like to talk about it just as much as you do. So if you think about how much you like to talk about fishing, it doesn't matter if someone's like a famous fishing guy, like you run into all of them, they'll all love to talk to you about fishing. Okay. So don't be hesitant to ask other people. You know, I heard a lot about tuna bombs and SKs going in and tungsten. That was all the rage. But for me, it was this cheap gyro laser bomb. This thing's like 20 bucks. This is a 400 gram. Look at, I want to show you again. Like, look at the eye of that. You see how it bent? And it still held up. The foil. So that trip was a huge success. We paid the money to have 5-star process the fish. It's $1.90 a pound, so plan for that expense. So if you catch a 200-pound cow, you're looking at $390 to process it, sushi cut, 5 mil vacuum sealed. I recommend doing all that. Granted, tuna aren't that hard to learn to fillet or loin out, but if you're gonna spend all that money on that prized meat, the experience alone is worth it. It doesn't, but I mean, that the value in the meat you're going to bring back from a successful trip is more than you can eat. It makes amazing gifts for friends and family. It's a great way to justify the addiction when you're gifting away $100 a pound chutoro to people. They don't really think you're as crazy for spending as much on the hobby as you do when it's that good. Same with halibut fishing. Now, I ended up coming back in October on a whim, and I fished on the Pacific Queen. This was a trip I did by myself last minute, and it was a banger. I mean, like that late season, everything was small, but man, we limited out that whole boat. And Pacific Queen attracts a lot of great fishermen. You know, I was able to get on it last minute. It's a famous boat. It's not, you don't have to be a legend to fish on it. It's gate kept and it's hard to get on, but there's a lot of great people on there to learn from. So I used this tungsten one I talked about before when I came back on Pacific Queen. And the reason being is because it's the most important factor with being successful with the Bluefin Tuna night drop is staying vertical. So if the ship's headed this way on the drift, I would kind of cast out in advance of the ship. That way, by the time the ship drifted here, I'm vertical straight up and down, okay? Now, tungsten's like 1.7 times the density of lead. So this is a 300 gram tungsten, and the equivalent, you know, in lead is much heavier. And then it also has this slim profile. So this thing drops fast. Sometimes the first person down gets bit, and you just need to get your metal down in the zone, okay? It was a fantastic trip. I also got smoked on the fly line for the first time. I had a blast. And so the next day I went out on the San Diego for a day trip. And this is also during a new moon boom. So there was the new moon for the trip on the Pacific Queen. It was a 2-day. Came back. Just for shits and giggles, I went on one day on the San Diego. And nothing. But I mean, there's something to be said for like all that travel time, getting into place and being prepared. It really is worth the extra money for like a 2.5 day, 3 day, at least do a 2-day. Give them time to find the fish. Those things swim very fast and in groups, and they constantly have to find them and charge around. So it just takes time. And, you know, traveling out there on the big slow boat to turn back around real quick. I mean, for $250, like, you're better served spending $500 to $700 on a longer trip and just making it happen there. You're more likely to be successful. That would be my best advice for that. Just, you know, plan, ask questions, and really do your research to make it so you can be the most effective fisherman when you go. And for me, it really paid off. And I listened to everything these guys told me. I learned the knots I needed to know, even though you don't really need to know the knots because the deckhands will happily do it for you. They're working for tips, and they're all excellent fishermen. So a lot of times I'm just having them tie the knots anyway, but I learned a few knots for the boats, and you can get away with about 3 or 4 knots. You know, you got your triple surgeon's knot, which I was able to hold on to that 130-pound fish. I had a leader of 40-pound mono on there from a daytime sinker rig. It was my light nighttime setup. It was actually a Penn Torque 40 that I now own one, but I was borrowing it. And it was a daytime sinker rig, but it was supposed to be a light nighttime setup. And so what I did was I ended up hooking that laser bomb on there, because I had this tuna bomb on the heavier nighttime setup. I put this on the light nighttime setup. It was actually a daytime sinker rig. I had that 40-pound fluoro triple surgeon knotted to the mono bumper, right? And I had no idea I left that on there. That was an accident. And 40-pound fluoro is pretty damn tough. It was Opsin. I pulled on that so damn hard. I mean, I wrenched that thing up in less than 8 minutes. I have it on video. I used the swells as it pumped up. I used that for the pump force, and then I reeled down, and it was kind of a nasty ocean. So every rise was just bringing it in for me. So I just winched that thing in and just didn't give it an inch. Just constantly control it, keep it taut. And yeah, so definitely plan it. Don't be afraid to ask. And my best advice, really, if you're looking to consume information to become the best fisherman possible, there is is it Patreon, I think, it's called Captain's Concepts. It's about $20 a month for access. There's a library of videos from the captain of the San Diego, Matt Bralla, and then the Captain Gavin of the Pacific Queen. So these two are two of the most respected captains on two of the most respected boats, most productive boats. And they're giving you all of the insight into what works for free. Or not for free, but on there. That research was invaluable. I listened to what they had to say as I was driving around for months, and I internalized a lot. And you can even ask them questions on there, and they will respond. And I can say the same for me here. If you ask me a question in the comments, I'm happy to respond. Reach out to me. I'm also on Instagram, Facebook. And if you got value from this at all, and you're interested in this topic, please give me a follow or subscribe, and share it with somebody that you might be planning on a tuna trip with. I really appreciate this.